What up, guys and gals? Mr. Herr here. Happy Monday to you. It's a beautiful Monday morning out there. Hopefully, everybody's healthy, wealthy, and wise on your end. Moreover, hopefully, you enjoyed the weekend. It was beautiful weather, at least for a little part of it. So, hopefully, you got outside. Hopefully, you got to do something fun. I know personally, we were outside hitting softball around, and the 7-year-old, she was cranking them. She must get it from her mother. She doesn't get it from me. So hopefully, guys and gals, you enjoyed your weekend and you got a little chance to just kind of relax and get outside. I digress. Today, we're going to knock out binomial review. If you're saying binomial, Mr. Herr, yeah, that's where we have to find our mean, we have to find our standard deviation, we have to run the binomial test. We have to remember at the end there's an approximation. I don't want to name drop, but I can think like some of you in class had that on lock. That, okay, if it's less than, am I going to add a half or am I going to subtract a half? If it's greater than, am I going to do, how are we going to go about that? So we'll be sure to knock that out. Our notes say it's only one example in our notes, but it does take time. So feel free to pause this video and, plan it out accordingly. Then you do have a 3-question PDF worksheet. Please upload that then to Schoology. Sidebar, it really helps me out if you can upload it as a PDF. Not a have to, just a high key request. Without further ado, I'm in the house and I'm in the house board. No, without further ado, let's do this thing. As I've said a few hundred times, this is a perfect opportunity to pause the video, grab your piece of paper, grab your pen. Sorry about the noise. The one positive, I was thinking about this, the one positive about this, for those of us who are headed off to further education, you really learn how you learn during all this time. For some of you, you can just watch this video and it makes sense. I know personally I was what I refer to as a 3-tier learner. I had to see it, hear it, and do it. So like for me, I had to be following along with notes. That's just how my brain worked. All right. Hey, without further ado, here we go. According to the American Red Cross, 7% of people in the United States have blood type O negative. What's the probability that in a simple random sample of 500 people in the US, fewer than 30 have a blood type O negative? The first thing you have to ask yourself is this a binomial problem? And if you're saying, Mister, I have no recollection what that word even means, that means it boils down to essentially a yes or no question. So in this instance, 7% of people have blood type O negative. So you either have it, 7% do, or you do not. It's yes or it's no. So this is a binomial. Okay, then we also have to run our binomial test. This is huge, not only to make sure that it passes, but it's also going to help us later on. So our binomial test, recall, is the number of trials, or N, times success. We have to write that as a decimal, times failure. And we also have to write that as a decimal. When we multiply all that together, it has to be greater than or equal to 10. If it's not greater than or equal to 10, we just stop. There's nothing to move forward with from that point on. So our N value, unless I'm misreading this, is 500 trials. Success, the way this problem's written, success is 7%. As a decimal, 7% is 0.07. If our success is 7% success, that means we have a 93% because we subtract that 7 from 100 to get 93% failure. As a decimal, that is 0.93. When we multiply 500 times 7 hundredths times 93 hundredths, when we multiply all that together, if it's greater than 10, we're good to go. Oh, sure enough, unless I mismultiplied, which feel free to holler at your boy if I did. but 32.55. Notice we don't want to round that. We want to leave it good to go. So it does pass our binomial test. That's the first part of this. We have to have that. In fact, notice I'm sort of fencing this off a little bit. Okay. Now, since it passes the binomial test, we can move forward. We have to find our mean and we have to find our deviation. Well, our mean for a binomial is n times success. So a lot like what we did prior to. Well, that's going to give us 500 times 0.07. Or in this instance, it works out very nicely to 35. Okay, we're going to need that. That's a big idea here. We not only need our mean, we also need our standard deviation. The nice thing about standard deviation, this is the square root of the binomial test. And we already know what the binomial test is. We know that we ended up with 32.55. So we just have to take the square root of that. Here, if you want to round to the nearest hundredth, I'm okay with that. We can kind of come to an agreement. Feel free to double check my math, but when you take the square root of that, you get 5.71 when you round to the nearest hundredth. Okay. So we needed our mean, we needed our standard deviation. Now we can pause for a minute. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we're going to run a z-score, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And it's very easy to do that in binomials because it says, what's the probability in a simple random sample of 500 people, check, 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 fewer than 30 have the blood type O negative. So it's very tempting in here to run our z-score and say 30 minus 35 all over. But be careful. And I'm going to scoot down here and I'll just give you a very quick rendition of it. Okay. Because a binomial is an approximation, notice we're approximating here. Whenever we're looking at less than a value, or in our case, in our problem, less than 30, we have to add a half. Whenever it's greater than or equal to a value, we subtract a half. So it's a little bit counterintuitive. Whenever it's less than, we actually add a half. So, coming back up here, fewer than 30 is just a fancy way of saying less than 30 have blood type O negative. So up here, it's tempting, as we said, to put in our x value of 30, but we have to add that half because of the approximation. So we're going to use 30.5 minus 35 all over 5.71. Okay. So feel free to snag your calculator. Make sure we round to the nearest hundredth because we're going to look this up. When we run our math, we get negative 0.79. That's our z-score. Okay. Please don't forget though, and it's easy to forget because we've done a lot recently. This is where we look this up on our chart. If you need a little review on the chart, just message me personally. I know for a lot of you, you're saying, Mister, I feel pretty good about this, but I also know it's super easy to get twisted up. Okay. So unless I'm bananas, which is high key possible, B-A-N-A-N-A-S, you end up with 21.48%. Okay. Sure enough, because it says fewer, we don't have to take the complement. You know, that's only if it said greater than or more than. Okay. Yeah. So that's a review of our binomials. Feel free to rewatch this if need be. Like I said, we got to figure out how we learn in these unique times. Other than that, enjoy your Monday. All right, squad. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.